Good morning or good afternoon. Happy Wednesday. Today we're reading chapter 25 from Restart from the viewpoint of Chase Ambrose. And I was just Googling online and found this video or this picture. Not sure if that's what you imagine him looking like, but just one idea of what Chase might look like. It says, "There's something important you have to see." I stare at Brendan's text on my phone. What's the big deal he needs to show me? Probably nothing. Chances are he really is just trying to rope me into helping with the new YouTube video, although he says that's not it. I don't care. The fact that he texted me at all is something. I haven't heard a peep from any of the video club kids since that day in the music room, but who can blame them? They all heard how I lied about the electrical fire, and they don't even know about the really bad thing I did. To be honest, I'd give anything to be part of one of Brendan's goofball videos again. They're always hilarious, and I could use a good laugh right now. I can't remember the last time I laughed. Nothing has been funny lately, and the most unfunny part is what I just found out about myself. Yeah, Aaron and Bear are jerks. My dad's pushy, and the video club is turned on me. But I'm worse than all of them. I'm a criminal, and the fact that I don't remember it doesn't change what I did. How could I do such a thing? It's a stupid question that doesn't need answering. I didn't do it. The old me did, and it's no mystery that the old me was capable of some pretty awful stuff. I stole Mr. Holloway's Medal of Honor from his room at Portland Street, one sleazy act of many, courtesy of Chase, Aaron, and Bear. I have no idea what I plan to do with it. Sell it, probably, and split the money with my two accomplices. But that little plan went sour when I stashed it somewhere, and then went and got amnesia and couldn't remember my hiding place. No wonder Bear and Aaron were so suspicious of me. They thought I was holding out on them so I could keep the profit for myself. And the worst part is that I can't even give the medal back to Mr. Soloway because I have absolutely no idea what I did with it, and I don't know how to find out. Maybe it'll all come back to me in bits and pieces like some of my past. But when? It could be years. What if Mr. Soloway dies in the meantime? How will I ever make it right? It's funny. The idea of going back to Brendan's house stings, even though I've only been there once before. When I had the accident, I never longed for my old life because I couldn't remember it. But my new old life, video club and my new friends, losing that hurts a lot. Since this time I know what I'm missing. And it hurts twice as much because of how quick those guys were to turn against me. Maybe that means we were never really friends, even though I thought we were. My partnership with Shoshana felt that way for sure. When the two of us were working side by side, interviewing Mr. Soloway and editing The Warrior, I was positive that we were creating something amazing together. All those kids in the video club were finally starting to trust me. Even Joel was kind of warming up to me. Or so I thought. I must have been nuts. In the end, that's why I decided to go to Brendan's. If he's reaching out to me, that's a good thing. I leave the house and step into a beehive of activity. Boxes and furniture are scattered all over the lawn next door. Four big guys are loading everything into a moving truck. That's right. The Tottenhams are moving today. Supposedly they're really nice neighbors who were great to Johnny and me growing up. Mom is sad that they're moving. I have no clue, of course. When you've got amnesia, it's hard enough to release the important people in your life. You tend to lose the crowd or the fringes. I'm cutting across the grass in the direction of Brendan's when two of the movers step out of the front door carrying a large frame painting. I gasp and for a second forget to breathe. It's her! The little girl in the blue dress trimmed in white lace, my only memory that stuck with me throughout the accident. I think about the hours I spent agonizing over that image, where it came from, and whether I might have hallucinated the whole thing. But no, here she is, the same red ribbon in her blonde hair. I see details that aren't in the memory, like she's standing in a garden surrounded by flowers, and there's a little watering can in her hand. I didn't imagine her after all. I remembered her from the painting in my neighbor's house. I run over to Mrs. Tottenham's, who is wringing her hands over the handling of a cartoon marked Super Fragile. That painting, I explained to in my hoarse voice. Did you ever show it to me? Oh, hello, Chase, she chuckles. That's just a reproduction, of course. An original Renoir would be worth tens of millions of dollars. Yeah, okay, I say breathlessly. But why do I know it? Did I ever see it in your place? Oh, I don't think so, dear, she tells me. It was hanging in the upstairs, quiet room. I follow her pointing figure to the glassed-in sunroom on the second floor of the house. So I didn't see it, but I did. How else could it be the only image to make the trip through my memory that's been shattered? My eyes traveled from the Tottenham's home to ours next door. Could I have looked inside this special room from one of our upstairs windows? No way. The entrance to our house is around the corner, facing away from theirs. Our dormer is in the front. The sunroom faces nothing but a chimney and some sloped shingles. The only way to see that painting from our house would be climb to the top of our roof and peer over the peak down into the huge glass window. And suddenly, I just know. I run back inside, tear up the stairs to my bedroom, and step out onto the perch that was so much a part of my old life. I start to climb, my rubber-soled sneakers clinging to the rough shingles. The dormer which houses my room is beside me, but that leaves a slope path about 3 feet wide, leading straight up to the top. As comfortable as I am on this section of the roof right outside of my window, the steep slope to the peak is another ball game. The grade is sharp, and the higher I go, the clearer the image of exactly what must have happened over the summer becomes, and how I must have fallen. The ground seems so distant in that it should be in another zip code. I'm amazed I didn't dash my brains out on the grass. I get on my hands and knees, and my ascent becomes a crawl. I feel a little more secure this way, especially as I meet the apex, where I can see my right arm, where I use my right arm to cling to the dormer. I'm pretty scared, but I'm more determined to get up there. For me to remember the little girl in blue, she must have been the last thing I saw before the accident. That makes sense. Since the roof is the only place I could have seen her from, I can't explain it, but I'm positive the key to what happened to me lies a few feet ahead. I stretch out my arm and get a grip of the top of the A-frame and haul myself up to gaze down at the Tottenham's house. There it is, the floor-to-ceiling window of the sunroom. I can even make out the large faded rectangle on the wall where the picture must have hung. Okay, I think, this is where I must have fallen. But it didn't answer the big question. Why did I come up here? Was I spying on the Tottenhams in their sunroom? I was rotten enough, but why would I care what they were doing? Besides, according to Mom, we were friends. I could have just knocked on their door. Why bother to climb halfway up to the moon? Frustration wells up in me, mingling with my disappointment. So the little girl in the blue dress tells me where I fell from, but that's it. As I inch my way back from the peak, I extend my right arm, steadying myself against the cedar shakes on the side of the dormer. No sense repeating my swan dive off the roof, although it's no more than I deserve. I almost slip as one of the shakes pulls off. A terrified gasp escapes me as I slide a little before stopping my descent with my feet. I hang on like a fly to a wall while the racing of my pulse returns to normal. That's when I catch a glimpse of blue behind the dull brown of the loose shake. There's something back there, wedged in behind the loose wood. I know what it is even before I reach for it. My hand closes on the silky blue ribbon, and as I draw it out, I feel the weight of the military decoration attached to it. The gold five-pointed star catches briefly on some insulation, and there it is, Mr. Solway's Medal of Honor, stolen, hidden, forgotten, and discovered again. Then, as if finding the medal has unclogged my brain, a memory of my accident pours back to me. It starts at the apex of the roof, with me gloating over the brilliance of my hiding place while peering down through the sunroom window at Mr. Tottenham next door. He's in the lotus position on the floor, performing an awkward yoga pose in front of the painting of the girl in blue. That's what does me in. The hilarious sight of my overweight neighbor twisted into a pretzel, looking like a giant mutant lemon in his skin-tight fluorescent yellow workout suit. Can you guys picture it? I let go for a second, reaching for my phone to get a picture of this one-man comedy routine, and the next thing I know, I'm skidding down the roof, the rectangular pattern of the shingles becoming a blur as I pick up speed. I claw madly at the slope, desperate for a handhold, a foothold, anything to stop my descent. But it's no use. My momentum is too much and I'm falling, and when I hit the eaves I flip over a little, giving me a terrifying view of the yard as it streams up to meet me. I know, dizzying, acceleration, and I brace for impact, but the memory ends there. I don't have to hit the ground a second time. So that's how it happened. The mishap that turned my entire life upside down and almost killed me. Serves me right for snooping on poor Mr. Tottenham. How is it my business if he wants to do yoga in form-fitting spandex? But that was the old Chase. Everything was my business because he said it was. What was I planning to do with that picture if I'd managed to get the phone out of my pocket? Show Aaron and Bear and the football team? Post it on Facebook? Print up 50 copies and plaster them all over town? I sigh. Who knows why that Chase did what he did? I should probably just be grateful I don't have to be him anymore. The metal clutched tightly in my palm. I climbed down it gingerly, careful to keep both hands and feet on the roof at all times. My mind is whirling. Brendan's house will just have to wait. Nothing there can be as important as returning this to the rightful owner. I have to see Mr. Soloway. Near the eaves, I slide on my butt to my window and throw a leg over the sill. Chase? Uh-oh, it's my mom. You promised you wouldn't go on the roof again. Do I have to nail your window shut? I just blow past her. Sorry, Mom. I toss over my shoulder. Go get to Portland Street. Oh, I'm not finished yelling at you yet. Have you forgotten what happened to you last summer? Do you have amnesia about the amnesia? I run down the stairs, calling, I'll explain later, Mom. In the kitchen, I snatch a dish towel off the drying rack and wrap it around the metal. I jam it in my pocket and blast out the door. And that is the end of chapter 25. Tomorrow's chapter will be from the viewpoint of Joel Weber. Okay, have a good rest of your day, guys. We'll see you soon on a Google Meet.